Hello, encouragers. I'm Rebecca Scott, wife, mother of 4, author, and owner and designer of Rebecca Scott Designs. I'm here to encourage you, to make you feel that I can do this spirit each and every day of our awesome journeys to fulfill our many important roles. I believe we are fully equipped to execute, and I will provide as much knowledge, practices, and systems as I can to help you understand just what I know you can do. Execute. We got this. Hello, encouragers. On today's podcast, I got a special treat for you. You know that I'm a big believer that there isn't coincidences. Everything happens for a purpose. And no matter what your opinion on that is, it just works out well for the positive, sometimes for the negative, but there's always something that we can learn. And I got to meet somebody while I was at the state fair. You know that I make the purses and accessories with my business, Rebecca Scott Designs. And then I get to have this awesome podcast where I can share with you things I've learned along the way and just encourage you in your own roles, whatever that might look like in your life. And while I was at the state fair, which by the way, you guys, it's a 5-day event. So everybody here is thinking, who would you find a sitter for 5 days, right? I have 4 kiddos. So to me, the state fair is a real commitment in time, but it is paid off every time because they are good, like homegrown people, I like to say, and they really understand my maker mentality, and that I was born and raised a 4-H'er, which here in the Midwest, it's kind of, I call it the entrepreneurship club. It's very egg focused, but over the years it has switched more to entrepreneurism and letting kids be a part of everything from the chicken barn to metalwork to sewing and fashion review to, I think they have target shooting now, like you name it. So it's just something that I like to support. And while I was at the state fair, I got to meet Chris, who is going to be on the podcast with me today. And it was nothing but a God thing. When at the state fair, there's about 1,000 booths. Picture it, 1,000 booths. And this is just South Dakota State Fair. And here, Chris and I are next to each other. Could not be more different in that I have a retail boutique double booth, totally different target market. And here sits Chris on the other side of me. Well, not on the other side, what do I say? Kitty corner to me or perpendicular to me in his booth, and got a banner in red, white, and blue, which he will talk to us about. And I don't know how not to talk to even a fence post. So, of course, not that you're a fence post, Chris, but I knew I had to make conversation with Chris, just get to know how we got to be neighbors. And that's how this podcast was prompted, is like praying instantly with it meeting was like, okay, God, there is a reason that you've put us next to each other, and how can I pave this way for what you have set before us? Okay, so that was a long introduction. Chris, tell us your first and last name and where you grew up.
Christopher Reeder, and I did grow up right here in Warner, South Dakota. So Warner, for all that don't know, is a small town just south of Aberdeen in the northeast corner of the state.
Okay, awesome. And Chris, tell me about your booth banner, because that is what drew me in. It said DTOM, which is Don't Tread on Me 22, and maybe you don't even call it DTOM, but I knew the 22 meant 22 veterans a day die by suicide. So immediately, because of my history with my oldest brother committing suicide, I thought, oh my gosh, I know what that is. And that's what started our conversation. So Chris, I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, that is what started it. You're right. And you're one of the few people that have come to me and known about exactly right away what that meant. And as you said, too, the DTOM, the Don't Tread on Me, came from the first Navy Jack that we ever had in 1775, from before the founding of our country. So the name DTOM 22-0, of course, then is the 22 veterans a day being killed by suicide, and 0 was our goal. But yeah, that's what seemed to prompt you to come over. And I guess in hindsight in my life, even though as much stuff as I've gone through, I certainly am a believer, like you are too, and that everyone's put in your path for a reason. And my path has been forged and been working on it for some time. But I didn't see it when it was happening, and it took me a while to get there. But I feel very blessed now and using that to help others. So.
Yes. So obviously you are a military guy. Tell us about your service.
Okay. I graduated early from high school, only went half my senior year, and was able to leave early. So I joined the Navy when I was 17. My parents had to sign for me to be able to enlist. I enlisted in the Navy, went to boot camp, and then on to military intelligence school in Massachusetts. Went through that and became a cryptologic naval intelligence operator.
That's like a mouthful. Say that one again. A what? Crypto what?
cryptologic naval intelligence operator. And my first career or whatever. And so by the time I was 18, I had a top secret security clearance and was a intelligence operator just shortly after my birthday. So it was quite a change to go from small town South Dakota to doing something very important like that, where our work could be on the president's desk in 15 minutes. So quite an opportunity. So definitely did that for 5 years. And then the military drawdown was in effect. So came back to South Dakota, and then because of my high security clearance, was called back and asked if I would come back for a sign-on bonus and my choice of orders. So I reenlisted then and got out the first time in '95 and reenlisted in '98. Went in January '98 and was supposed to go to school and then to go to Spain that second time around. So that was my choice of duty station. But because of needs of the Navy and whoever knows what on your path that is forged for you, like I was just saying, that the Navy changed my orders while I was awaiting my school to form up, and I was given the opportunity to go to San Diego, California instead. Okay. I went to San Diego after some schooling and continued my career, and then became an analyst, and then was involved in a accident coming home after duty with a car, and took about a year and maybe 15 months of rehab to be able to use my right arm again, and then was medically discharged.
Okay, Chris, we got to talk about this, in the booth hours. Sometimes they can get long and awesome, and so I'm always going to learn more about the people around me. What was the first accident? Was that the motorcycle?
That was a motorcycle versus car, yes, and that's where my long list of head injuries started. That was the first one. So.
And tell me, when the scene of the accident, you got hit, and you were telling me something about either the X-rays afterwards or the miracle within that accident.
I think the miracle on that one was just being able to get up and walk away. I didn't actually hit the car. I laid the bike down and somersaulted and whatever, the bike ended up stopping 6 inches from her side of her car. So didn't do that, but it did dislocate and ruptured all my ligaments and everything in my arm. And then obviously with hitting the ground with that force was the first time I ever experienced a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. Okay, so then you said you have this accident, and then they honorably discharge you, or what's the words that the military does then? Yes, it's an honorable discharge, and it's medically related. So it's still honorable or whatever. So you get a disability check, then I get a small one every month, and access to the VA because it was service-connected disability, and I still struggle probably every day with my right arm and my head injuries and that. But but like I said, we'll talk more. It was definitely a blessing in disguise later on.
Okay, then I'm setting everybody up to understand why, if anybody doubts that Chris has a purpose, these stories will make you know, there is a purpose. So tell us also about, so this is the first head injury. Tell us, and I'm not sure if this was a head injury or not, Chris, in conversation, but your other accident with the semi. Well, it wasn't an accident, it was a tornado.
The semi one was the third one.
Oh, gosh.
There was another bike one involved in there where I did hit a car going 65.
Okay.
And with such force that it blew his rear tires out of a Crown Victoria car. So, and then hit the ground on that one as well. And so that was the second one. And then the one you're talking about was last May, driving a semi coming to Rapid City, South Dakota, and was in Nebraska. And without any warnings or any notification or anything other than it was raining, a tornado was right across the road. And by the time I noticed it, and it lifted the entire trailer and semi straight in the air, and next thing I knew was it hit the ground. So can't answer to how high it went or how far it went or whatever, but definitely got off the ground and was a hard impact. And that was another one then where my head was just the trauma of hitting the ground at such force that your brain slams against the inside of your skull.
So did the second accident involve head trauma as well?
I don't know for positively sure if my head ever hit the ground, but I know there was scrapes on the top of my shoulders from the concrete, but I don't know other than the fact of the internal injury of again, the brain hitting the inside of your skull because of the sheer impact. But
yeah. Okay, so all of these accidents, which praise the Lord that you're still up and walking, because you've got a mission like none other that I've ever seen. So I know that you survived those because you got a special little angel bubble around you. And
absolutely.
Al, so you're going throughout the military. Tell us, since these accidents, and I'm not sure the date that you started it, you started something called the Veterans Ranch. And this goes back to what his banner said, the 22/0, meaning let's make the 22 suicides a day, everybody, of military members down to 0. How did these head injuries and the brain things that you went to link you to what you are now doing called Veterans Ranch?
Okay. And don't forget when you talk about that, Rebecca, the 22 a day, if you count that person's that we lose, their circle of friends and family that each suicide affects, we're talking about almost 3,000 people a day. So it's much more than even the 22. I mean, when you add in family and friends, so it's just really a big problem that we have to solve. So, so the Veterans Ranch then. So I did. I noticed a little bit that I was getting help a little bit with my issues when I was doing volunteer work for several organizations, and I helped, some pretty big organizations, and would see holes in their gaps and problems that they maybe wouldn't see or they weren't addressing or that I thought might help a little bit or give them advice or give them whatever to help some of these guys that it wasn't quite helping. And I would always get the same response. Well, that's a great idea and stuff, but if you think you can do it better, well, go start your own foundation. So after getting told that several times, I finally did. I set aside some money and worked some extra overtime and to pay for all the initial fees and startup and attorney stuff to get our 501c3 and started the process. So that was in March of 2017 that we started the process of forming DTOM 22/0 Foundation. And then I was still in Colorado at the time because I was working there. So then when I moved back to South Dakota in August of last year is when we formed the ranch arm of the foundation. We had been raising money and awareness for that. So we had the idea of building a ranch where the veterans can come to get treatment, therapy, camaraderie. That tight-knit group again can be there to support each other. So our first goal, our first phase of it was to implement something that we could start right away, which we started the equine-assisted Draper sensory method. So we're one of only 4 ranches in the United States that are able to do this method to help helping these veterans that are struggling. And then later on, we're going to build a lodge where the veterans can then come and live for 18 months or whatever they need to get them reacclimated. And this isn't just new veterans or new war veterans or whatever you might think. It's all veterans, all wars, we're all on the same team. So there's no this person and not that one and this one, but not that one. It's everybody.
Is that what you were finding with the other organizations is like they would do it, but not for this person, but for this person. So that's why you said, I got to start my own because it needs to be all inclusive.
Not so much with that as with one organization, we would go and do projects together, and it was a lot of natural disasters type thing and stuff like that. So we were helping people out, and which is great. So you go get back together with veterans, and you're working your butts off together like no other can. You're spending time together, you're breaking bread together, you're sleeping together, you're just with each other all the time while you're doing whatever the operation is. But then at the end of that operation, they give you a hug and it's see you later. And, we'll give you a call if we got another one coming up. And I said, well, how do you give that veteran that structure and stability and camaraderie and everything and show them how it is being back inside of that and then just rip it away from them again. So then if they're struggling, then all of a sudden they feel great about themselves. They feel great about their situation, feel great about helping someone, and they got a mission and a purpose again. And then you take that away. So that's what kind of really was the main driving force of we've got to find a way that veteran can get the help they need and they can reacclimate at their own pace. They're not told when they have to be out of here. They're not told how they have to progress because everybody's different.
Yes, which you knew from your own military experience as well and the head injuries. Go ahead, Chris, and tell us the nitty gritty, because I know you said it goes into, like, you're super smart, man, super smart. Tell us about what the horses do for the military member when they ride on them and all the brain stuff you were telling me. I want our listeners to understand, because I know you have a teaching heart, so you can teach us what this does.
Okay, I'll try not to get too in the weeds on it, though. But
no, do okay, get in the weeds. We want to know it. We are nerds.
Okay. So we have purchased a therapy horse, and his name is Max. So he's out here at the ranch right now. So what Max is he's one of only about approximately 20% of horses in the world that have a specific movement that we look for with the Draper sensory method. And that horse has to have the movement. Then that horse has to be able to be trained and be able to use that movement consistently to help the veteran. So it's difficult to find the horse in the first place, let alone training them. So we really lucked out on how we ended up arriving at getting our horse. So we have Max here at the ranch. So what Max can do is you're on, we built a arena. It's a round arena, 45 feet in diameter. And so I hold on to Max and work him as we go around this arena, and the veteran or the participant, whoever's on at the time, rides on Max, and he or she will ride bareback, and then they'll be facing backwards on this horse with their eyes closed. And they have a belt on, so I have a hold of them at all times. And we go around in this arena. And by going around in this circle, the movement of Max's hips, how he sways his hips, a certain way that he can, creates a frequency in the patient's body, which then, using kinesiology, travels up the spine into the brain, and using the scientific principles of neurophysiology and sensory integration, we're able to take the struggling veteran or whoever the patient is, whether they're struggling from traumatic brain injuries, whether they're struggling from PTS, whether it's chemical dependency, whether it's neurological disorders, we can actually alter their brain waves and reset and balance their neurochemicals in their brain. So they're just in an alpha brainwave, out of that beta brainwave of fight or flight mode all the time, why they can't sleep, why they can't think rationally, because their neural pathways were blocked with the amygdala blocking their prefrontal cortex. So we can take care of all that cortisol and all the stress hormones and start from scratch and put them in alpha brainwave. And then at that time, we can start repairing their vestibular part of their brain. Mm-hmm. And once you start doing that, then they can continue on with their regular talk therapy or whatever therapist mentorship, whatever works for them specifically, even if they just want part of their therapy is to spend time out here with other veterans and talk, at a support group or whatever. It doesn't matter what they do, but it's a way to change their belief system and show them what they can do. Rational thoughts, they start seeing that what they were doing wasn't working, and this is why, because now all of a sudden they can think rationally because they can access the prefrontal cortex. So instead of their thoughts and memories in their hippocampus area of their brain, that's always kept them alive, and that's what they rely on when they can't access their rational thoughts. So we're trying to get them out of that. And because those, as we can see them, aren't rational and they aren't the right thoughts, but the struggling veteran can't see that. They think that that's the correct decision to make. So that's why they keep having issues. But so it's very technical, but it's really, really great. And success rate's unbelievable. And
well, that's why I'm so fascinated with you guys. I'm a visual learner. So at his booth, I'm looking at his T-shirts that have the horse with the American flag draped over it. And I'm going, okay, well, I love horses. I'm a West River girl. And then I'm like, wait a minute, this is therapy. And he has two laminated pictures on his table of a brain. And one has a bunch of red in it with a little tiny bit of green. And then the next one next to it is all green. And I said, okay, well, tell me what this is. So tell me what those two laminate posters are.
Okay. So when I was in training at the Horseback Miracles Ranch in Larkspur, Colorado, that's where I went to school to learn how to do this Draper method. He has a helmet that they put on that has a ton of probes and electrodes, and it's an EEG brain scan. And so he set that up with Colorado State University. They formulated this way so that they can scientifically show proof of what's happening with your brain and and explain things. And I also showed you, I think, the picture too, where it actually showed where my traumatic brain injuries were located. But so they take a pre-scan before you start the therapy, and then they take a post-scan after your therapy, all on the same day. And
same day, everybody, one day.
The pictures you saw, the difference right there was about 20 minutes difference worth of therapy. That was all that it took to do that. So the red was showing cortisol, anxiety, stress hormones, and just my elevated neurochemicals in my brain are just out of control. So, and then you saw afterwards, all that was neutralized and almost all the red was gone, almost all of it. And it was just in 20 minutes.
So that was one lap on the horse, or how many laps in that 20 minutes?
It's we don't really keep track of laps, but the more you do it, the faster you can get into mode. So usually I'm at the point now where personally, if I do it, it's usually 3-4 times around is all that it takes for me. Some people it takes longer. Some people it takes literally 10 seconds. It's unbelievable. So, I mean, each person's different, and once your body gets used to it and knows what it's doing, we do a visualization where you concentrate on watching the horse's hips move while you're doing it. And you just lock that in your brain, and we'll put a sticker on the horse's rear end. And so you can watch these stickers, how they move in that. So then later on, if the veteran's not even here at the ranch and they start having anxiety problems or something's flared up and something's triggered them, they can visualize Max's rear end moving like that in those stickers, and they can actually alter their brainwave themselves without even being on the horse.
Oh my gosh. Like, you guys, this is fascinating to me. I can't get over that this could reverse so many of these veteran suicides. It's just like, so when you're saying the therapy, like they get to the veterans ranch, they go however long it takes them, it would be set up so that they can return. Or like you just said, if they need to make a distance call and they're like, I'm really starting to get the anxiety again, that you are giving them tools with this therapy to be able to do it from a distance as well.
Right. Absolutely.
I can't get over that. It seems so simple, which obviously after you explain it, you're like, okay, wait, it's not that simple. Like there's a lot going on in the brain, but that quick, for me, when thinking of Philip was addictions, is like, could not get out of that. So remember when we were talking, I would say, alcoholic or drug abuse or whatever it was. For Philip, it was alcohol abuse in the end because he was so high anxiety. And so he was just self-medicating to try and keep the anxiety. He could not get out of that thought pattern of, okay, I'm trying to hold on. So he's basically bootstrapping it, which I'm sure a lot of military members do because they are such disciplined people because of what they're trained for. And so they just do the same thing over and over, hoping for different results, but can't get it. And this process interrupts that brain cycle, correct?
Correct. Yeah, because just like what you're just saying, so they're accessing that hippocampus, that area of their brain that they have all their stored memories, and the faulty memories to them, they believe that's the right way to do it. Mm-hmm. Maybe he thought that drinking was the way that he was going to solve it, but as we know and thinking rationally, it's not the way to do it. But he couldn't rationally think about that. So we're just taking all that cortisol and all that stress and all those hormones, and we're just wiping all that out, neutralizing it all. And then we start working on the problem. So we can, and it's not an overnight thing. It's not like it's a one-time deal and it's done. Some people stay with it for a long time. We started on an average of 16 visits on a package deal where we set them up for that and say, okay, you're going to do 16, whether we do 2 a week, because that feeling and that altering will stay with you for up to 3 days. So in that 3 days, that's when you continue with your talk therapy and we do other drills as well. And that's part of the fixing of vestibular part of the brain. But so we're doing those drills at the same time as we're neutralizing, but then you go and continue on with your therapy that you're doing or whatever that helps you. And we're going to add that later on and actually have, looking at having a therapist on staff, but we use local ones right now. Mm-hmm. And we just continue on with them. But this is just a way of helping them make rational decisions and fixing the problem. And actually, instead of just more pharmaceuticals and masking the issues and whatever, we're going to take care of them.
Yeah. Well, because the truth is, I always say with Philip, the only comfort I have, and it's not even the right word, is that we tried everything we could think of. I mean, just sort of an exorcism. We tried everything. Treatment, therapy, you name it. We could not get him out of the cycle. So if this kind of therapy, I'm assuming, military members are going through. Right. He could. That's what I needed to hear. It's not his fault. And especially with suicide, every death is terrible. I've grieved on all kinds of different levels, but there's something about the suicide death that is so unsettling for, like you said, the 3,000 people that are affected by it, by each suicide affecting 3,000 people in their circle of life and circle of love, that is just unsettling because you know how badly they did not want it, but could not get out of it. And I think
there was no hope.
There was no hope, and that repeated process in their head. And I could just, it's not their fault. And so I love that your mission is to stop it for these military members. Do you think, Chris, the 22/0, you're going to narrow it down to 0, and we're going to help as much as we possibly can? Will you extend it to also outside of veterans, or does that need to be your focus for now so we can get them the help they need?
Definitely, that needs to be our focus here at the ranch. But we have been in discussions about that with. I've had meetings with with both of our U.S. senators here in South Dakota, and then with some of our state senators and state representatives, and even county representatives in that. And we've talked about it, about what we could do. We can use this for at-risk children, for chemical dependency. We've talked with the mental health area here about what we could do, and showed them about what we could do for their chemical dependency, and about inpatient treatment. And because the recidivism rate is just terrible with the inpatient treatment, and I think it's at 13% or something. So you're spending that much time and effort and money, and you're only getting 13% success rate. We can give you. We can run a pilot program and show you that we can quadruple that. I mean, easily. It should not be an issue, but it's just a matter of getting that awareness out there and talking to them, and then showing them what we can do firsthand. So we're not shying away from that at all. So we're definitely talking to everyone and showing that. But then we would probably have to expand and add another horse and another practitioner, and then have that a little bit. I mean, we can still be here at the ranch and stuff, but it'd have to be a little separate. But definitely our veteran side is our main driving force. That was why this was founded, and that. But we can definitely use it for more than just veterans as well.
So speaking of being able to use it, how can us as the listeners reach out and help spread this?
Well, we have our website, which is dtom220.org, and we have our Facebook page that we update probably more regularly, and that's DTOM220 Foundation. The actual population around here and community has rallied around us, and it's just been amazing, and everyone's doing all kinds of events and creating awareness and learning about it, and seeing what we can do and following along and talking about it. And whether it's at your church or whether it's your service group that you're part of, or whatever it is, talk about it. It's we do have to get rid of that stigma, and we have to move past that. And once we do, I think we can start making some progress. But we're still setting records every year in the military. Last year was the highest ever since they've been keeping stats on active duty suicide. So we've got to do something, and it's just not going away. So I know the Air Force has just created a mandatory stand down for a day to talk about it and figure something out, but it's a problem, and it's got to be taken care of. So spreading awareness, creating events. If you want to do an event, and whether that's a benefit for us, or you're just spreading awareness, or with someone else, or something like that. And we do fundraisers and work with people on doing fundraisers and that. And then we run off of donations and grants, and that's just how we operate. So, so all those things would help out greatly. But honestly, the biggest thing is getting rid of that stigma and talking about it. And we can all do something. It's just a matter of, do you want to do it? So get involved.
Is there anything that we can offer a veteran who comes to us in our life and says, I'm really struggling with some suicidal thoughts? Would we send them to the foundation as quickly as possible? Is there anything we should or shouldn't say, Chris?
I would suggest, and each situation is different, of course, and they are more than welcome to give us a call at any time and talk to myself or whoever's here. And our phone number is 605-725-DTOM 3866. So they can talk to me at any time. I'm usually here at the ranch. So I mean, even I've got a handful of people I talk to on a daily basis, checking in on, talking to them, seeing how they're doing, see if they need anything. If they need help with a certain part of their life, I've got resources and contacts that I can call different areas of the country that might be able to help them with this and that. And it wasn't long ago, someone called from Montana and said, I've got a veteran here that is getting ready to be homeless. Is there anything you can do? I know you probably can't because you're all the way in South Dakota. And just because of who I knew, called someone here, who called someone there, who called someone around, they ended up having an office in Montana. They got that veteran a house. They paid for her deposits, first month's rent, a welcome home basket and everything, got that veteran a house before she was living in her car in the street. So, don't sit there and dwell on it and think it's the end of the world and no one there to help you, because there's a lot of people out there that care about you and that want to do something. And so just get them involved with someone or talking to someone. I mean, that's what it's all about. So.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So as I'm speaking this, I'm thinking, okay, for sure, everybody, I will announce it and speak it into action. But during Veterans Day in November, I have some special things planned for my purse company, and we will be definitely doing some form of benefit for Chris's foundation here in the Veterans Ranch so that we can spread as much awareness as possible. And I'd really like to talk with you afterwards here, Chris, about some of the military women that come to you, because believe it or not, a purse is a big deal. It's like your home on the road. So I'd like to be able to help with some of those women coming through there. So we'll chat about that also. And so listeners, you heard it straight from Chris. We will make sure to put this in our show notes so that you can understand exactly where we can go to spread awareness. If we want to host an event, if we want to run some benefits, whatever we can do to narrow that number. And it makes me choke up thinking about it, but we have to narrow the number, you guys. We cannot have this at 22, which is actually 3,000 affected a day. And I'm one of those 3,000 that was affected, and it will change and alter your life forever. It does. And we are living and loving and breathing still, but there is a dent in what could have been. And so let's prevent this for other families. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing everything. This is gonna be big. This is gonna be big. There are big things in store for your foundation.
Appreciate your time.
Yes. Is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners?
Since you were just talking about that, I think we even talked about it at the state fair. But since you just brought up female veterans, I don't think people realize that either. That's probably the fastest growing segment that they're having suicides with, and is women and female veterans. And I think I told you that the current number is for veterans versus civilian is 250% higher. So if that doesn't tell you something, something has to help them too. I mean, it's everybody. We're all on the same team, but obviously there's really a difference between civilian and veteran on the female side that needs to be addressed as well. So,
awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. Thank you for being on the podcast today and letting us know how we can help. We will stay in touch and be sure to follow up after the podcast air to see if there's any events or anything that us as listeners can be a part of. Thank you, encouragers. Until next time, we got this.
Hey, encouragers! If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you've had the scene where you're crying because there's no way you can meet all the roles in your life, I've been there. I've so been there, but I'm not there anymore. And I know how you can get out of that slump and start executing on all the things that God has equipped you to do. You can pick up my book at equippedtoexecute.com, also on my website at shoprsd.com, and it's also available on Amazon. Thank you for tuning in, encouragers. Remember to subscribe so it's automatically on your phone, and please rate and review me. We got this, encouragers.